Hey, everybody. We're going to go ahead and read the next chapter out of Allies by Alan Gratz, published by Scholastic, and they have given us permission to read these chapters to you while we're dealing with the COVID 19 virus. Next chapter is entitled If Day. James thought back to that day 2 years ago. It was February in Winnipeg, a month when the temperature never got above freezing. The snow was already piled up head high on the sidewalks, and the Red River was a 3 mile sheet of ice covered with skaters and ice fishermen every weekend. It was 10 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday, and James should have been in math class. But school was canceled for the rest of the day because today was If Day. James had just pulled out his coat, shut his locker door, when a hand pushed him face first into the metal door. Kerslam. Where do you think you're going, McKay? James knew who it was without even turning around before he even heard him speak. Marvin Lennox, James's personal bully. Everybody else forgets who I am, James thought, so why can't Marvin Lennox forget? Marvin gave James a quick punch to the lower back, and James arched in pain. He turned, ready to try to fight back, even though he knew it was a lost cause. Marvin Lennox could beat James up on his own, but standing behind him were Marvin's four stupid buddies, too. Marvin and his gang were a year ahead of James, and they were taller and stronger than he was. They were all on the football team and wore their orange and brown football sweaters instead of blazers to school. All of them wore their ties permanently loosened and rolled the cuffs up on their pants to show how cool they were. And like Marvin Lennox, they all had their dark hair slicked straight back on their heads like Humphrey Bogart. James tried to get free, but Marvin pushed him against the lockers, and his hyena pals laughed. Let's break it up here and get downtown for If Day, a teacher said, walking past. Marvin released James and waited for the teacher to move on before leaning in again menacingly. How about this for If Day? Marvin said. If me and my boys see you downtown today, McKay, we'll kill you, and there ain't nobody gonna save you. Marvin and his gang walked away, laughing, and James slumped against his locker. The easy thing to do would be to just go home and hide. But If Day promised to be the most exciting thing to happen in Winnipeg since forever. James pulled on his coat and ran for the door. He was just going to have to chance it. The first sign that anything was different were the radio broadcasts. James heard one as he cut through Eaton's department store to stay warm. The place was empty, and all the clerks who had to work were huddled, wide eyed, around the store's radios. Attention, citizens of Winnipeg, said a radio announcer with a German accent. Your city is now under the control of the Third Reich. Adolf Hitler is your Fuhrer now. James's heart leaped. It was starting. He ran to the revolving doors on the far side of the store and pushed his way out, and then pushed his way right past again when he spotted Marvin Lennox and his gang across the street. He flung himself behind a stand of mannequins in the window where he couldn't be seen and bumped into Charles Hill, a freshman who wrote for the school paper. Oh, hello, Charles said, straightening his glasses. I was just shopping for clothes. James glanced up at the mannequins they hid behind. Ladies' mannequins wearing long evening dresses. Okay, I don't think it's your style, Charles, said James. He peeked out from behind the mannequins, looking for Marvin Lennox. Are they gone? Charles said. Are you hiding from Marvin Lennox too? James asked. He's not happy about the article I wrote about the football team's loss to Kelvin High, like I'm the one who fumbled on the 10-yard line. Okay, well, it looks like they're gone, James said. See you, Charles. James left the store and ran for the riverfront. An air raid siren suddenly blared, making him flinch, and he watched as planes with German Luftwaffe insignia droned by overhead. James saw his first Nazis in a city park. There were dozens of them, hundreds. Some of them wore the all black uniforms of the SS, the dreaded secret police who made people disappear. More of them wore the gray green uniforms of rank and file German soldiers. There were even tanks. James joined the crowd of Winnipeggers, gathering to watch. The crowd buzzed with excitement, and James hopped up and down. They were all thrilled because they knew this wasn't a real Nazi invasion. It was If Day. The Canadian government wanted people to buy victory bonds to fund the war effort and to volunteer to fight. But even though the war in Europe had been raging for almost 3 years now, with no end in sight, Europe was a long way from Canada, and it was hard for many people to understand why they should care. So Winnipeg decided to stage If Day, an elaborate spectacle designed to show the people what would happen if one day Nazi Germany invaded and conquered Canada. The planes overhead, well, they were Royal Canadian Air Force aircraft painted to look like Nazi planes. The German radio broadcasts, scripted. The Nazi soldiers, actors, their uniforms rented from a Hollywood production company. James and everyone else had read all about it in the newspaper for weeks, and now it was finally happening. The crowd cheered at something, and James climbed up on the cold, slippery base of a lamppost to see. Canadian soldiers had arrived to face the Nazi menace. The two sides broke into a choreographed battle, firing blanks at each other and pretending to fight hand to hand. Medics ran through the battlefield, dragging the wounded to medical tents. Anti aircraft guns fired big booming blanks at the planes overhead. This is terrific, James thought. It was better than a war movie. McKay! Marvin Lennox cried. James tore his eyes away from the show and searched the crowd. There, pushing their way toward him through the spectators, were Marvin Lennox and his boys. All right, guys, that's the end of that chapter. Don't forget to subscribe to Mr. Knepp's channel right here if you want to read more chapters from Allies. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel up here if you want to see some more as well. We'll see you for the next chapter in a couple days.